Hi, it's Barry Neale from hypnosissesix.com. I'm an anxiety therapist and I help people just like you overcome anxiety. And in the last 18 months or so, one of the things I've helped people overcome is COVID anxiety syndrome. This has been a real big problem for a lot of people. And as the world starts to begin to get back to normal, many people now are actually getting worse because they're getting very, very anxious about getting out into the world, and should they wear masks or should they still keep doing social distancing, because there's so much uncertainty in the world and there's so much uncertainty in the news about what you should and shouldn't be doing, and all this uncertainty causes anxiety to get worse. And no, I'm not going to tell you any medical things. That's entirely up to you, whether you should or shouldn't wear a mask, or whether you should or shouldn't continue social distancing or stay indoors or whatever. That's entirely up to you. What I want to do is to make sure that you're okay and you feel comfortable, whatever it is you decide to do, and you start to feel confident as you start to go back to normal. And so what often happens when people have anxiety is, first of all, they start kind of making all pictures in their head about everything that could possibly go wrong. But most importantly, they tend to talk to themselves a lot. And they often have a voice inside their head that is constantly telling themselves all this negative stuff. And this voice gets faster and faster. And this negative dialogue just goes on and on and on. And if you pay attention to it, it just makes you feel so bad. It just drives you mad. So what you need to do is to start to learn to take control of this internal dialogue. Now that may seem like a weird thing to even suggest, but the reality is you can control it. And what I'm presupposing is that you can start to control your internal dialogue and change it and even stop it. And as a result of that, you're going to start to feel better. Because the moment you start to take control of your internal dialogue, your anxiety levels are going to drop. Because it's the internal dialogue that often drives anxiety. And typically, for most people, when they've got this voice in their head, this voice is speaking about 90 miles an hour. And it's like racing along, really, really fast. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And you get yourself in a right old state. And a lot of times it's the speed in which you talk to yourself that's the problem. Because I want you to think of something. Here's a thought. Could you really get yourself anxious if you talk to yourself in a slow, drawn out voice like this? I mean, if your internal dialogue was to be really slow, like this, would you start to notice yourself relaxing more? And I think the answer to that question is yeah, because the only way you can do anxiety is to talk to yourself really, really quickly and really start nagging yourself and telling everything that's going wrong and what's going to, if this happens, or what if that happens. And the faster you talk, the more anxious you get. So here's a couple of things you can do right now to start to change that. First of all, you could just take that internal dialogue and begin to just slow it down. So just imagine whatever it is you say to yourself. Whatever it is, I don't care. It could be anything like, oh my God, if I go out, I'm going to catch COVID, right? So I'm pretty willing to bet that you're not going to say that in a really slow voice. It's probably really, really fast. Like, oh my God, if I go out, I'm going to get COVID. Well, here's the thing. What I want you to do is to take whatever your internal dialogue is, whatever that sentence is that you say to yourself that kind of gets you really cranked up and makes you really anxious. Write that down on a piece of paper. And then what I want you to do is I want you to slow it down. I want you to say it to yourself really slowly. So for example, if your internal dialogue was, what if I go out and I catch COVID? What I want you to do is to slow it right down like this. What if I go out and catch COVID? notice if you were to say it at that rate and speed, that slow speed, notice how much more calming and relaxed that is. So you don't even necessarily have to change what you're saying to yourself. You just have to slow it down. And this can be the same if you struggle to go to bed at night and you've got that internal voice that's racing off at 90 miles an hour. Just imagine slowing it down. Some people imagine having a big dial and imagine dialing that down and slowing down that internal dialogue. Other people imagine maybe, you know, those old-fashioned record players, you know, with the record and the needle. Imagine what it'd be like if you had one of those and your internal dialogue was on one of those records that just went round and round. And what would happen if you were to pull the electric out and it would just start to go, get slower and slower and slower until it just stops. If you were to do that, you can take control of that internal dialogue. Now, there's another thing you can do, really, really important thing you can do, is when you hear this voice and it's telling you, you can't do this, you can't do that, tell it to shut up. Say to it, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Whatever you're saying to yourself, something you really don't like, that you know is scaring you, that's causing you anxiety, just tell it, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. And then start saying something much kinder to yourself. Start saying something that's really positive. And what you will do is, if you keep doing this, any time you have that internal voice telling you you can't do something, or if you do this, X will happen, tell it to shut up. You are not your internal voice. You have control over this. So if you've got this internal voice that's nagging you, you've got a couple of choices. You can slow it down. Or you can tell it to shut up, shut up, shut up. And then say something nice to yourself. And as you say something nice to yourself, start focusing in on what it is you do want and how you do want to feel. And if you do these things, you're going to notice your anxiety levels come down, whether this through COVID or whether it's just general anxiety. By taking charge of your internal voice, you can start to feel so much better. Now, if you like this video, I've got loads more like this, so please like and subscribe. If I can be of any help, come to me at hypnosisessex.com and I'm sure I can help you reduce your anxiety and panic till it's totally gone. So I hope to see you one day. In the meantime, just take control of your internal dialogue and notice your whole life improving.